We're out here in beautiful southern Colorado, Fremont County today. I'm Johnny Herndon, and I want to try to avoid breaking my leg and also share some thoughts with you about the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights. It's the Constitution of the United States. To begin with, you're wandering around out here in the wilderness, you're liable to run into anything. Mountain cats and bears and maybe drug dealers, you can't tell. And in hand-to-hand type situations, a man probably wind up dead. That's one reason that the founding fathers were wise enough to put into our Constitution the Second Amendment thereof, that we could keep and bear arms, and the right to that would not be abridged. So I want to start with just a little history lesson on the Second Amendment, and just to clarify why the founding fathers felt the way that they did. You know, back in the old country, a long time back, you had lords and serfs, you had landowners, and then you had folks that worked the land, and you had kings and other people that would be over all those kind of things. And a lot of times those folks would fight with one another and carry on that way, of course. And you could just take Robin Hood, for example, that kind of a thing. And so it devolved and evolved that ultimately the people in power with the money wound up hiring mercenary armies. And of course that they would have weaponry and numbers sufficient to wipe out any individual citizen of that country, or any group of them really. And that's where the oppression of wealth and power and political power began. So when our founding fathers risked their lives and everything else that they had, Mayflower Compact, etc., to come over here to a free, beautiful land like this, they had ideas. They had very strong ideas. They had seasoned thinking. This wasn't an off-the-cuff deal. They had centuries of oppression that they were trying to get out from under and become free again. And so it wasn't surprising that as they began to form this fledgling government, that they begun to think about the potential for oppression, still threats from King George over there in England, at that point breathing heavily down their throats with taxation, with military threat, of course, to maintain control over the land, all of it America amounted to. They wanted to control it, so obviously these folks that declared independence from the king were potentially getting in real trouble. So anyway, when they begun and got the Constitution, of course they declared independence first, and then they began to work on the Constitution. And when completed, then they began to work on these amendments and the Bill of Rights. And ultimately what they arrived at was that they needed to secure a right, the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. And that was the reason that the Second Amendment came originally into their thinking. Well, I didn't clarify that. The reason that it came into their thinking was that they wanted to be able to resist an oppressive government. Now we've come a long way, and people talk today about shotguns for shooting birds, or even home defense and personal defense, about high power rifles for the same kinds of things, or sporting, or killing an elk. And they talk about what we call, or so-called, assault weapons, which actually that's a misnomer and it's a joke. Really, any weapon could be used to assault somebody, including one of these sticks laying on the ground over here, or a ball bat. It's all, if you're intending to assault somebody, you'll assault them one way or the other. But in any case, well, I digress. But in any case, their first reason wasn't sporting. Their second reason was not target shooting. Their first and second and only reason was lest an army be assembled by the government, a mercenary army that would oppress the people and they would have no way to stand against it, they declared every man should be armed. Every man would be a member of, or be a small subset of, a militia that would be for, by, and of the people. So the people could never be oppressed, because they would always have arms to defend themselves. Now, not just arms based on the technology of 200 years ago or 100 years ago, but technology based on the changing times. Had it been just a sword would have been enough, like in biblical times. Had it been a musket, then a musket would have been enough. But as technology has changed, we've had to go from a single shot firearm, a musket, black powder gun, to an AR-15. Fully automatic, by the way, because if the bad guys or the governments have fully automatic weapons, what good would it do you if you had an AR that was in fact just semi-automatic? But another story, and I do digress. So point being made is this, that the Second Amendment is not about sporting. The Second Amendment is not about target shooting. The Second Amendment is about defending the populace, the citizens of a free nation. First and foremost, probably against outside invaders. Aliens come into our soil. Secondarily, those potential mercenary armies that would try to oppress the people that are based upon an illegitimate government that's trying to usurp the Constitution of the United States. That's how it is, and that's the thing we should keep in mind.